from my perspective, just as an old country boy, and you know, this the only way I can understand this complex stuff. We need parallels on the in the virtual world to what we have in the real world.
And to those who say that a bill to stop online theft will break the internet, I'd like to point out that it's not likely to happen.
Leading scholars, as well as the American Civil Liberties Union, say that this legislation will not survive constitutional scrutiny as introduced.
Wouldn't it be right to do this research to find out so that at least we do no harm that could hurt our economy in dramatic ways?
The creativity of the internet may, in fact, be diminished severely by the structure of this.
And the last thing you want to do is create a hole or do some surgery to the internet.
One of our most treasured national values is the right to freedom of speech and expression. Secretary Clinton recently said we all support a single internet where all of humanity has equal access to knowledge and ideas.
I was trying to think of a way to try to describe my concerns with this bill, but basically we're going to do surgery on the internet, and we haven't had a doctor in the room tell us how we're going to change these organs. We're basically going to reconfigure the internet and how it's going to work without bringing in the nerds, without bringing in the doctors.
The debate here has shown that we do not understand the facts underlying the decisions that we are making.
It allows us to get into the internet and say, look, you can't engage in these kind of things just because you're operating in the internet.
But we don't go after the Postal Service or UPS when something is illegally shipped through that means of transportation. I don't think we should treat the internet differently.
The same laws apply to crimes committed on the internet as via any other mechanism. If you sell drugs via the internet, if you sell illegal drugs over the telephone, if you sell them on a street corner, you're going to jail. The internet is never an excuse for anybody to violate criminal law, copyright law.
If it's already against the law, because we're just enforcing a law that already exists, right? So I mean that I am not persuaded by that.
We have a number of papers from some very qualified people who say that this hurts cybersecurity.
Well, I don't believe.
And other than saying, well, we got to do something, I agree with you.
I do not believe that. But
with all due respect, how to just say, well, I don't believe that. These guys are experts. I'm looking for somebody to come before this body and testify in a hearing and say this is why they're wrong.
There's collateral damage in addition to this not being an effective tool to combat internet piracy. It will also promote internet piracy by making the DNSSEC less secure, and it will make internet stability and security more difficult.
Someone's home personal computer or a refrigerator or a toaster can constitute an internet site because it is, quote, collection of digital assets accessible through the internet, end quote. It has no domain name, but it does have an IP address. So again, if your toaster has an IP address and you are remotely controlling it, I would argue that it is not in fact a website. If it is toaster.com and people can go there and access it, then it looks and feels a lot more like a website.
And in fact, because mistakes have been made in the past, we've had lawsuits filed against a printer because the IP address was dynamic. And this is about the integrity of the infrastructure. Even though we disagree about many other elements of the bill, this should not be a source of disagreement. This is cleaning it up.
We need to go after the one that is connected to the infringer, not the one that could be dynamically generated and have different people at any point in time and could be used internally to control your own climate in your house or how well your toast is done.
And again, I worry that we did not take the time to have a hearing to truly understand what it is we're doing. And to my colleagues, I would say, if you don't know what DNSSEC is, you don't know what you're doing.
When the domain name is blocked, the site that is blocked doesn't go away. It's still there. And how do you get there? You can simply type in the IP address.
To explain this as a metaphor, it's akin to there being a crack house in a neighborhood where crimes are being committed. Now, the correct solution is you go in and you bust the crack house, arrest it, condemn it. That's a direct response. What instead we're trying to get at here is basically changing the street signs in the whole neighborhood in the hopes that people have a more difficult time finding the crack house, leaving it there, but also making it more difficult to get to all the nearby houses and the nearby streets. Screwing up everybody's GPS system, resulting in a lot of lost people and frustrated people, many of whom had no intention nor desire to ever commit an illegal act, nor have they committed an illegal act.
Alternatively, you could use your computer, and again, this is not hard to do, even a 10-year-old could do it, to use a different domain name server, such as a foreign server located outside the United States. It is not technologically daunting. I was talking to one of the members across the aisle last week who said, in fact, his 10-year-old did this. So to say so easy a 10-year-old can do it is not an exaggeration. Further, a quick software download could actually automate the process. Various computer software and other tools allow Internet users in repressive countries to evade the censorship imposed by their government. And it turns out our government, the United States government, has funded the development of some of these tools so that the people of China and Iran and other repressive regimes can have access to the global free flow of information and freedom of speech. In fact, some of those tools were utilized in the Arab Spring so that individuals could actually have access to information on the Internet. Those very same tools that we have worked to devise, that we've funded to develop in some cases, are the same tools that could also be used by Internet users in the United States to circumvent the blocking of a foreign infringing site under the bill. If we ban them, we would also deprive Internet users in other countries the means to fight back against censorship by their repressive governments.
Tor, a web anonymizer, can be used to learn the true story of Tiananmen Square if you happen to live in China and the government otherwise doesn't allow you to access that story, and in fact only shows happy smiling people. When you look up the term Tiananmen Square, it allows you to get to the real story.
We will, and I'm sure it's not the intent, I'm not suggesting it is the intent, but the result will be further oppression of individuals in repressive regimes. That's just a foregone conclusion. So I would urge the chairman to rethink his opposition to this narrowly drawn amendment for the sake of those who are living in regimes that care so little about human rights.
The fact is that an accused site should not find itself arbitrarily removed with no recourse.
So it's not impossible to have a situation where you're actually talking about a competitor who looks and sees he can take down his competitor's website and make some more money, and then hide behind the immunity.
Because there really is there's no plaintiff, there's no court, it's just the ability to disappear things.
But let's talk about the little guy. Let's talk about the internet entrepreneur who, if the Department of Justice whacks his site and then keeps it for a year, they're going to be gone. They're out of money. They're destroyed.
That you have great concern when you list service providers, payment net providers, all these people are getting immunity, and the little guys that they may knock off, they'll never get back on again. They'll be the judge, the jury, and they'll be pounding their chests and they'll be saying, I have immunity, I can do this. Little guys never heard from again.
We omit under the definition of service provider on page 9 businesses that offer domain name resolution services solely to businesses for domain, subdomain, domain name systems, or internet protocol address management. So that would be a company like GoDaddy would already be exempted. So, I mean, if companies like GoDaddy are exempted, why are non-commercial domain name servers, and again, many universities are DNS have their own internal DNS, why would we not exempt the non-commercial ones if we're exempting the commercial ones?
Where are the safeguards for the little person that gets trampled on? Are we willing, since we're emboldening, to a great extent, plaintiffs' trial lawyers with their ability to act, are we willing to have the federal government pay out of the judgment fund if, in fact, the Department of Justice is wrong and destroys a business? Is that being discussed? You know, we've got these billionaire companies in the audience on both sides. Okay, I like both of them. I love the fact that they're major exporters and major technology producers. But are we going to have specific protection for the little guy that can't afford the lawyers and can't afford to be shut off, and as a result goes out of business and at the end of the day was innocent?
Yes, there's a controversy, but the controversy is why we would listen to people who've been paid to say something that is wrong in the face of the entire internet science world saying this is a catastrophe. That is the controversy and the mystery.
There's been a lot of money floating around in a lot of different places on this issue, and I just don't think it's worthy of us to be talking about who got bought off and who got hired by whom.
And I could not fathom why we are moving so quickly on a bill that may in fact save billions of dollars or in fact cause us to lose billions of dollars. And why we not find a way to protect the intellectual genius but not stifle the creativity of many.
Is it unreasonable, and would you stand with us in putting a hold on this bill so that we can have such a hearing? That's all I'm asking for at this point is let's have a hearing, bring in the nerds, and get some real answers to what questions this body can't answer. Is that unreasonable?
I think the reasonable thing is to show the seriousness of our intent by moving this bill forward. That's the reason.
Would the gentleman yield?
They think that they can hold up moving forward with this markup today if they keep talking. Would you please let them know that you're going to go forward with this bill today so they can stop trying to influence you so that they won't.
The gentlewoman will yield. Yes, I have every intention of going forward today, tomorrow, and however long it takes.
Well, in that case, Mr. Chairman, would you use the gavel and your influence as the chairman to help move this along and stop your colleagues from wasting all of our time?
Will the gentleman yield? Because we are overly abusive and too quick on the draw to try to draw some conclusions and do some things that the nerds of the world think will actually harm the internet, then I think we are creating problems for our economic future. I think it'll hurt jobs and the economy. I think we will see things go overseas.
There's a possibility that law enforcement officials could target all sites that contain infringing content, regardless of how insignificant that content may be.
You need to have a basis. I mean, this is what you're seeking is internet death. I mean, take down the site, disappear you, and there needs to be some strong belief and evidence that that death penalty should be pursued.
We should be going out of their way to make sure that we protect people's rights. That we don't just have some bureaucrat, the Department of Justice, who just signs off on something and it just goes.